What is going on, Movie Meals? Movie Meals, this is spoiler review for Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. So just gear up for it. It's all spoils. We're talking about the movie. Spoil. If you skip the first 20 seconds, you're a dummy who's going to get spoiled for Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. Thank you, Movie Meal patrons, Kimberly, Karen. Let's get into it here. Go get some merch. I'll link down in the description, like, subscribe, commentary, everything. We're just kind of free flow it here. And I'm going to start. Okay.
Okay, let's do it.
With what made me laugh.
Let's fight.
The moment. The moment.
Okay.
MODOK's face appears. I'm laughing thinking about it. Died laughing. I laughed for probably 5 straight minutes. I don't know. And I think it's unfair to assume that we do know if they intentionally wanted it to look as goofy as it did or not. I tend to think they did. We don't know. But I think he looked as bad as he did on purpose. He's a goofy character.
Oh, yeah.
I laughed so hard that by the time I finally settled and he kept showing up in scenes, I had to do everything I could to stop laughing because now we're in big moments. There are things I did not like about MODOK, but the fact that I laughed that hard for that long, I'm going to enjoy your movie at the end of the day. I'm laughing. I'm having a good time. I did see a review on Letterbox from one of the critics I enjoy, and all it said was holy shit, MODOK. Check out rest of my review on YouTube. And I saw that before I went into the movie, so I was like, wow, I'm really curious about MODOK. And just died laughing. I'm assuming you absolutely hated MODOK.
I didn't hate it. I mean, he looked how I expected it to look in live action, to be honest. I mean, I've seen this character pop around in comics and animation. I know that he's both
a show
like
for a while.
Super smart, and I didn't see the show. It looked terrible. But I just knew what he looked. I knew what his deal was. Like, he's evil, but also no one really cares that much. Like, they beat him easily at the same time. So I kind of knew like his shtick, and they incorporated that here, and I thought that they did a good job. I don't know. I just didn't need Darren Cross to like come back and be a part of that necessarily. I would have been totally fine.
No, you loved him.
Oh, okay. Never mind then.
He's always been your favorite MCU villain.
It's true. Better than Thanos. But yeah, since they threw him in, okay, that's totally fine. He was the comic relief, and it seemed like people in my theater enjoyed it as much. Not for me. I thought it was okay, but I just didn't find it laugh out loud funny. But I felt that way through most of the movie to begin with, so it wasn't just him anyway.
Another thing I loved, and I know you didn't like it, but I just, every 5 minutes, I like ants. I like ants. And I was like, Michael Douglas, you love those ants. And then when all those ants showed up, I was like, let's go. Him and his ants, him and his boys. His wife was in the quantum realm, slept with Bill Murray. The man just wanted his ants. Okay.
By the way, she could have slept with Jonathan Majors, but she chose Bill Murray. Like, I know Jonathan Majors is evil in this movie, but choose your battles, man.
Maybe Jonathan Majors didn't choose Michelle. Maybe he's not a Catwoman fan.
Yeah, maybe. It's possible.
Jonathan Majors, the scene I'm talking about is when he comes back to fight Ant-Man and is at the very end and his suit's all messed up. Mm-hmm. Part of his suit's not on his arm. And his bicep, massive. I was like, this man is about... I did not see Kang the Conqueror. I can't remember his character's name from the trailer in Creed, but whoever he's playing in Creed, and I was like, he's about to get obliterated. And then he pulls out a couple boxing moves, and I was like, this man's been training for Creed on the day of filming, and Paul Rudd might be dead. We don't know. Like, Paul Rudd's not going to make it out of this movie alive, and Paul Rudd is looking great. But holy moly. Whew. Anyway.
That part kept coming up in the trailer, and I kept seeing so much speculation, people being like, oh man, I think this is it for Ant-Man. I think he's dead. He's gone. He's out of here. Look how much of a beating he's taking. And I never understood why they thought he was going to die. Like, at most, I thought like maybe he would just get trapped in the quantum realm at the end of the movie, but I just never got the sense that he would be dead. And
I think
when you're fighting Jonathan Majors, like, obviously, you're gonna look as beat up as Paul Rudd did. So, I don't know. It made me laugh. I was like, I don't like, obviously, he would get that beat up. So, I don't know. It was just something that made me laugh as I was thinking about
camera's
it in my head.
struggling to focus, man. Uh, but
You look great.
I think that the fan bases are just looking at the patterns of trilogies ending and they're saying, okay, this is the end of his trilogy. And and they've been doing that with their teasers of this legacy guy is going to die. I mean, the ending of the last Guardians of the Galaxy trailer is literally all of them walking with Chris Pratt being held in somebody's arms.
Ah,
Like
he's drunk.
they're and he's definitely probably not dead, but
Yeah.
they've been doing that lately and it's been interesting. I really liked the end fight in Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania or whatever it is. I
It just made me
really
excited
liked
for
it.
Creed.
It did make me excited for Creed, but I think
Yeah.
it was a really powerful moment where he's like, no, where the whole movie, you're going through the notions where Paul Rudd is just told briefly towards the end that they cannot let Kang out. He is fighting with Kang and realizes how much of a threat this guy really is. And when he has the option of, I could let this guy out and I'll get out, or no, he does the Avenger move. And I thought it was great. I thought that last fight was awesome. There's a lot of goofy in this movie, but I thought that last fight was great. I thought how it looked was awesome. I love the line, we both just have to lose.
Mm,
And then it makes a ton of sense. When you really think about it, I think people will complain that it's a plot hole that Cassie's then able to just get him out. But she literally at the beginning of the movie is like, I have built, but she says it at the beginning of the movie. I have built a way to go to the quantum, to contact
mm,
and do things with the quantum realm.
mm.
Makes a lot of sense to me.
Well,
Anyway, what else you
with
got
that
here?
well, I do
See if
wanna
I
add
can
on to
move
that
this.
moment because
See if I
that
can
kinda
move
made
this
me
a little
laugh in the
closer.
wrong way. Because I was thinking, "Okay, perfect, like, they're both stuck in the quantum realm. That's such a, an ending, a bombshell to land on. We don't know what's gonna happen to them. It ends on, like, a mystery, and it sets up for something really interesting." But then at the end, after she's like, "Oh, no, my dad's trapped," she's like, "Oh, wait, no, I can just click the button and they're fine again." So I'm like, "Okay, well, I you could end it that way too, but don't." I don't know, just the way that they edited together, I was like, "Oh, that's kinda
Yeah, the editing wasn't
deflating."
great. The editing wasn't
No.
great. In fact, the editing was so bad, I think it broke editing rules at times of where people are supposed to be, when, and had
Yeah.
to have your eyes naturally flow, which is, not great. Something you learn in film 101. I know because I
If
did.
you notice the
Uh,
editing, then that means it's not very good editing.
yeah, it was poorly edited, especially in the first half. That's where I noticed most of it. It did smooth
Sure.
out in the second half, which is easier to do. I
Mhm.
thought the final fight was kind of fun.
It was.
Uh,
Yeah.
and the parts I liked were, Ant Man, being Giant Man or whatever you call him. Like I saw that, and every time I see it now, I just remember Civil War sitting next to you and you screaming yes when he finally
Yeah.
became him. And now you do, it's too much now he's been giant too much, it's too much of a good thing, huh? um I did think Catherine did a good job as Cassie, and I thought everybody did a good job, but the problems really were, I mean, literally at the beginning when they're like leaning in to look at the message thing that she built before they get sucked in, it looks so blatantly that Peyton Reed was like, all right, look like you're surprised or look like you're confused. And then they
Uh,
just lean in and they're like,
yeah, I noticed that
and
a
it
lot
looked
with
bad.
I noticed that a lot with Michael Douglas. There was just so many moments where there's supposed to be, like, tension and characters are supposed to be like, "What's gonna happen next?" And then Michael Douglas is in that stupid ship with, like, the ooze on his arms, and he's just
Which I thought was funny. Um,
I don't know, I chuckled, but I was like, I don't know, I didn't feel like I was chuckling, like, in on the joke, I just thought it just looked dumb to me, but like I said, I said this in a non-spoiler review, things like that, I think are gonna work for a lot of people seeing this movie, I just am gonna be in the minority for sure.
I don't think you are in the minority. I have seen
Really?
this movie get obliterated. Yeah,
By
I
critics,
have been
maybe, but
seeing, no, not by critics. I have been seeing this movie get obliterated
by
by
audience
people.
too, wow.
Oh yeah, I mean the audience score on Rotten Tomatoes is higher, and I do. I mean, okay, let's have an honest conversation here because I'm
Ooh,
getting tired
my
of it,
favorite. Okay.
and I'm gonna talk about Rotten Tomatoes. And
Oh boy.
Rotten Tomatoes, okay, when you look at it, is
Mhm,
an amalgamation of reviews, which just don't understand. Okay,
mhm,
62 or like 63% is fresh. That's a good movie in Rotten Tomatoes eyes. All it is a website for critics who are getting paid. That's what a critic is. Somebody's saying, "Hey, I'll pay you because I think you have studied and you have worked hard and you understand what you're talking about to give an opinion."
mhm,
They get to put it all there, right? That's
mhm.
what that is. The audience score, which people still think can be review bombed, it can in a way, but not nearly as what it used to be. Stop. Come back to me in 2013 and let's talk about review bombs on Rotten Tomatoes. Are you kidding me?
I mean, the
Half
last
these
bad
kids
one
complaining when alive. What?
the last bad one was Captain Marvel, and they had to change their rules. That's how
They did.
out of hand
Yeah.
it got. Yeah, yeah,
Because they were having issues with it. And now
yeah.
it's a lot easier where you have to actually go through a little bit of a process to get on Rotten Tomatoes. And um what I've been seeing a lot of people being like this, this score, that score, whatever, blah 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 blah. I completely lost my train of thought where I was going with any of
Well,
this.
let
Are
me
you
pick
kidding
up
me?
on let me
Had a whole
let me
honest conversation, no longer honest because I
No, no,
can't
I'm gonna be
freaking think of
honest.
it.
I'm good.
Be
I'm good.
honest.
I'll be honest for you. Because with the Rotten Tomatoes score, I agree with what you're saying. People have to realize that they're calculating the percentage of those critics that are giving it a fresh review, whether they're
Out
saying
of
this
5.
deserves, yeah, out of 5. Basically, is this tomato or is it the splat thing, whatever. But what they fail to remember is that within those scores or within them being like good or bad, that there's nuance within those reviews. So
Mhm.
you really shouldn't, I mean, for general audiences, like it is a good way to like say whether you want to spend your money or not. But for people like us who really live and breathe movies, who are interested in what critics that we have taste with have to say, like we shouldn't go on just by the ratings alone. We should really be able to read or skim through certain reviews and see the nuance within what they're saying is good or bad. And that's where people get lost when it comes to that score. Like the score doesn't the score does kind of indicate on like whether a movie is good or bad, but really at the end of the day, it's based on or the movie going to see the movie should be based on what you know your tastes are going to be, or whether you trust what a critic says that has similar tastes as you. Perhaps does that make enough sense?
It does, and I'll add to it that when you're
Yeah.
looking at those reviews, when you click on the 200 and, some people that gave it, well, a 42% or whatever like Ant-Man got, don't
Hmm.
just sit there and read the little clip that is sectioned out for their
Yeah.
clickbait. Read the article.
Hmm.
Most of the time, you'll get critics who are like, I actually really enjoyed this, and this, but I really didn't like this. And it's out of 5, right? The difference between fresh and non-fresh, if I am correct, and I'm pretty sure I am, is 2.5 and 2. If you give it 2.5, it's
Hmm.
fresh. If you give it a 2, it's not.
Hmm.
Okay. If we make that out of 10, that's the difference between 4 and what is that? 2.5 times what? 2 is 6.
We're not gonna do
So
math here.
that's what I just did.
Well,
Easy peasy.
that made my brain hurt, Al.
uh,
Let's talk
but
about comic books.
But that's a big difference to
Yeah.
me. If a movie that I would give a 4 and a movie I would give a 6 are very different. A movie I give a 6 is probably had a decent time in the theater. A movie I give a 4 might run or rethink
But
your job.
but that's another thing too. Like your way of scaling how to rate a movie is could be different from some other YouTuber or for some other critic of like I don't know Wall
Sure.
Street Journal or whatever. So like if someone hears that you gave the movie I don't know a 6 out of 10, let's say that could be good in your eyes, but someone else could be going 6 out of 10. That's terrible. But they're judging it on their rating system probably,
Well,
not
yeah,
on what
of
you define
course.
your rating system. I'm just saying, like, it becomes I think it does become problematic, especially when it comes to these genre-based movies to where there's such a diehard love for them that if people feel like there's any not bashing, but any criticism of it that doesn't align with their criticism, then we start really reacting to like ratings and numberings and
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
And I'm not sure, I'll be honest, I'm not sure there's many people who would look at a 4 out of 10 and be like, that movie doesn't, like, that sucks. I don't
Sure.
think there's many people. Sixes
Maybe,
range
maybe.
very differently. A 6 could be, even for me, a 6 could be an Oscar movie that I did not enjoy very much, but understand the performances and the character and the directing and blah 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 blah. So I'm like, that's a 6 out of 10. I'm probably never gonna watch it again. I'm glad I watched the first time, compared to a Fast and Furious movie that I might be like 6 out of 10. But man, did I have a great freaking time in the theater? You have to take it for what it is. But
You have to look for that nuance. You have to look
I've
for
been
the
seeing
descriptors.
like when you look at Rotten Tomatoes, I said this a couple times to some of our friends. When I see a 40, a 50, a 60, well, usually more of a 50 or 40, I am usually more intrigued to go into the theater than I am not, to see where do I land on this spectrum. Am I going to be middle of the road? Am I going to be positive or negative? Because if you're in the 40s, that means you're probably getting a lot of 4s and 3s out of 10 or out of 5. And then you're getting a lot of 1s and 2s out of 5. So there's not a lot of average there. So those high and low numbers are creating that kind of average. So I usually tend to get a little more curious. But when you go in, of course, you got to make up your own mind. Like there's always going to be a group of fan base. Like when you look at who's liking a movie, like you and I get into little debates all the time about did people perceive it positive, negative. When we look at Marvel right now, right? We got to take I think a pretty solid percentage. I'd argue 15% of the fan base will love it no matter what.
Sure.
I would argue 10 to 15% will hate it no matter what. We have friends that I know will go into basically every Marvel movie and come out hating it. They'll think it's awful. We have friends who might go into every Marvel movie and truly love it. So that's taken away. If you're at 100 there, that's 25, 30% of the fan base that you have to take out because they're way too over the top or they're way too negative, right?
Yeah.
So then you look at critics, right? And I've been seeing a lot lately of people talking about how critics only view things as Oscar movies. They only look at it this way. And I just don't think that is true, right?
No.
What have
Yeah.
critics done? They've studied film, right? A lot of the times they're failed filmmakers, or they're people who realize that that they didn't want to act, or they didn't want to make movies, or they had tried and they just never got their break, but they needed a job, so they continued to study filmmaking. I always consider a critic somebody who studies film, even if you're not a professor of film or have a degree. Blah, blah, blah. You're a fan. You and I are football fans. I think you can make a good argument and word it in the way of, I study football, right? I'm watching every day. I'm trying to learn. Am I an expert? By no means. No. Am I an expert at film by any means? No. You know who is? Quentin Tarantino, Steven Spielberg, all these type of guys. George
They study
Lucas.
football film all the time.
100%.
100%.
But that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Because they're the fans that live and breathe a sport, like football, who it's like, they study it and they give everything they have to it. And I think we do that for film, and I think a lot of people do that for film, and I think that's okay. But that's what a critic does, right? They are going to look at a movie differently because they have truly studied how this works, compared to an audience that I don't think always does. And sometimes I see videos or tweets or this or that from people that I think do consider themselves, fans of film to the point where they would consider, like, I learn film, I understand basics of this and that, and blah blah blah,
Learning
and
to
then
analyze, dissect.
yeah, and that's great. And I love those people and I love those opinions. But there's a difference between when we're looking at these audiences, because I think the audiences on Rotten Tomatoes are probably more in line with people who think that they really, really, really understand film and probably don't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, have you ever had this where you're scrolling through Twitter or something like that, and you see somebody be like, it's all in the cinematography, and it's like the way they word it, and then you've seen the movie, they use their big words to make it sound like they do know what they're talking about, but they don't.
They use big words, but they don't know what those words mean.
Exactly. Yep. And
Yep.
So there's a whole range of fans when you're looking at art like this that are going to toss in all their opinions. So you always take everything with a grain of salt. The only person whose opinion that matters about a movie is yours to the end of time. You can get in fun debates. Man, I sometimes miss the fun debates. We have been in some heated battles. I'll never forget a debate, Kyle and I saying how Man of Steel rocks. We're arguing. We're in an IHOP. It's 2 a.m. And by the end of the debate, the guy we're fighting goes, I haven't even seen Man of Steel. What? Excuse me? Did you just debate me with all these big fancy words? And you've never seen the movie? Or excuse me, sir. Did you just debate us for 2 hours and you've never seen the movie? What? What? Anyway, I hope this friend watches this episode because they know who they are. Anyway,
The point being,
Ant-Man.
the point being, Rotten Tomatoes doesn't matter anyway, and even if you do take it that seriously, this is like Marvel's second bad rated movie. It's okay. If you like it anyway, you're gonna like it
also,
anyway.
like, it's an amalgamation, right? I feel like
Yes.
I always get annoyed with like the Rotten Tomatoes is stupid. You have to look at blah 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 IMDb or this or critic or blah 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 blah, blah or you. Blah, blah, blah. It's like I just want to if you just want to read some reviews, great. If you want to get an idea, because I think it is. And did I just come back to my original point that I forgot? Wow.
Magic.
It's an amalgamation, right?
Yeah.
It does give us a good idea of how people are feeling about the movie. Right now, the sense is that critics are pretty divided on the movie. And I would say casual people are trending a little bit higher with I enjoyed the movie.
Mhm.
Does that mean everybody has liked it? No. I've seen quite a few critics or pundits or just people in the space that I enjoy watching who really hate the movie. Then again, a lot of those people, they haven't liked Marvel for a while anyway.
Just
And
not
I've seen
their
some
taste.
that really love it.
Sure.
There are things about Marvel I have not liked. There are things about Marvel I really like. I enjoyed the heck out of Ant-Man and the Wasp. Should we get back to spoilers about the movie? I'm having a good
I'm just
time.
waiting.
What are your thoughts?
I'm waiting for you to wrap up here on the Rotten Tomato thing, so that way if we can go back to spoilers, because I'm sure
What else
people
did you
want to
hate?
hear. What else do I hate?
Yeah, what'd you hate? What's the number one thing in this movie that you truly hated? Was it how dark the beginning was? Because when I saw it, I was like, Kyle's gonna lose it. Man needs glasses.
For how much I have that problem when it comes to Disney and Marvel projects, I actually thought this movie didn't have that issue all the way through. I thought that lighting issue was like in 20% of the movie, and 80% was actually lit pretty well. And I, as a result, probably enjoyed the CGI in it more than I anticipated I would. That being said, I still wouldn't say the CGI is great. But as compared to some other projects like Thor: Love and Thunder, for example, I thought that they did all right, even though it still had that soundstagey, rubbery feel to it that I'm just not a fan of.
You know what's crazy? I think Thor: Love and Thunder looked probably better than Ant-Man from start to finish, but boy, do I think it's a worse movie.
Oh, I would say it's the worst movie too, but I'm just making that comparison as an example.
And I know I'm just going off. Yeah, I'm trying to think other things I really enjoyed. I thought again, I did enjoy that Michelle Pfeiffer got more of the kind of front lead here. I thought that was pretty cool that she got quite a bit of screen time and got some cool stuff to do and got a couple of action sequences and some big moments. How many more times do we need to get knocked down by a villain, though, before we just start talking about other potential threats? All right, this is what Tony was nervous about. This is why we need a suit around the world, okay? Because everybody's hiding their little big bad villains in their own little microscopic universe who might get out.
Well, he thought they were gonna come out from outer space. He didn't even know there was a microverse where you can just shoot up and there you are. Did you like this introduction of this version of Kang? I'm sorry, I totally interrupted you. I didn't realize.
No, I'm just making fun of you because you said that you said Tony doesn't even know about this universe, and it's like, my guy, he literally built the time machine that goes through that universe.
Well, okay, like I mean, in like Age of Ultron and Civil War.
I know.
Leave me alone.
I thought this Kang was very menacing. I've seen people say he was not. I think he showed that because okay, let's be honest. Is Ant-Man top of the list of fighting here? No. But Ant-Man can duke it out a little bit. And Ant-Man put him to the ringer, especially at the end. But he needed a ton of help. I mean, he had to get trampled by hundreds of thousands of ants before
Ants.
before 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 Ant-Man could kind of get to him. And even then, Ant-Man was losing. Ant-Man was losing that battle. It took everything they had and the power reactor thing to suck him in to disintegrate him for it to
Mhm.
work. I mean, they needed everything to go right. Um unlike the Eagles. Anyway, uh I thought he was good. I'm actually more curious about your thoughts on the post-credit scenes and those introductions of Kang.
Mm.
So, if you want to touch on what you thought though on Kang in this movie first.
I thought this would probably be a good introduction for audiences who may not have seen Loki and his appearance. I thought that it was a good showcase of like a villain who is threatening, but he also has nothing to lose, especially with getting um uh um outcasted by the rest of the Canes from whatever land they come from. But yeah, I thought it was an interesting take on that version. I really liked Loki's version as well, who was more subtle. It was more
The good one,
kinder, maybe. Yeah, the
apparently.
good one. And I thought though that was really cool to see that juxtaposition, but also just a good introduction for audiences who may not have seen Loki. Uh, the after credits scene, I thought the first one looked pretty bad, but I did like introducing the Council of Kings. I think that's what they were called in the comics.
Yeah.
Um, I didn't expect one to be like Egyptian or one to be I don't know, some other versions, but
Well, all
I only
all
knew.
three of them are based off of the leaders of the Council of Kangs. Those are supposed to be the three
Really?
heavy
Oh,
hitters in the comics. Yes, sir.
okay.
Mhm.
Maybe I'm thinking of a different version
Do your
then. But
research, DC shill.
yeah, you're right. I'm a fake fan now. Um, but I did think that was pretty cool to see just from a fan standpoint. But I do wonder if audiences will see all of those Jonathan Majors and see all those versions, and they're like, whoa. Like how are they
Mhm.
gonna figure this one out? Like how are the Avengers ever gonna stop this guy when there's just endless upon endless versions of them?
I know,
But the
and
lighting and the CGI looked terrible to me, but that's about it.
I agree with you. I actually thought it's in the background. When the CGI is poured behind you and around you, it makes whatever goofy outfit you're in not look, it takes away from what you're seeing. I
Yeah.
thought the performance in that was great when it panning out or whatever, and you see the one Kang and he's like screaming maniacally. I was like, okay, yeah, this is scary. I think this is an interesting direction they're going because I like what you said about how are the Avengers going to beat if it's all of these Kangs,
Mhm.
and that it's not that, because it's hard to not be like, all right, I want one Kang to just be the villain like Thanos, right? But in reality, it's just Kang, and there
Mhm.
is an infinite amount of him right now. How
Mhm.
do we defeat him? So I'm very curious to see what they do. Um, so I
Can I
liked that one. Go ahead.
Yeah, can I add on to what you're saying about that? Because I
Sure.
think when it comes to his interpretations in the comics, there's always the notion that you stop one, another's gonna come back. And the Avengers just have to deal with that. That's always
Mhm.
been, at least to me, what is that character? And that's part of what makes him menacing. I think when it comes to movies, though, people are usually in the mindset that, okay, I'm being introduced to villain, but at some point the hero will stop the villain, and then that's the end. And I'm
Yeah.
wondering if I'm sure audiences can at this point, but I'm wondering if there will be that frustration of like, okay, but in Kang or Avengers Kang Dynasty, we stopped one, but are we going to stop them all? Are we able to stop them all? Is there a way that that's going to work out to where you do stop them all? Maybe they do figure out a way. I don't know. I just think those are the differences between comic adaptation versus movie adaptation, and that wonder of if the two are can be on the same page with in different mediums.
Yeah.
Just a thought.
Um, so the other end credit scene is a clip from Loki, right?
Two
So
Kane
it's
ones. I was
it's
surprised. Yeah.
yeah, well, they're setting him up,
Yeah.
they're setting him
Yeah.
up to be the villain. I
Mhm.
thought that was one of the best after credit scenes I have seen in a while.
Yeah.
I loved Tom Hiddleston's very fast performance. He looked terrified.
Mm.
I believe that Kang is also a pretty powerful variant of Kang that is hiding in that time. Um, but I loved it. It reminded me a lot, and I can't remember, so you might have to help me. Wasn't it Ant-Man that had the Civil War post-credit scene that was just a clip from Civil War where they have Bucky captured? Was it Ant-Man, the first Ant-Man?
Yep.
To me, that has always been arguably the best after credit scene because it is a clip where you're like, oh, we just changed tones. Holy moly.
What are
And
we in the
like you
middle
can
of?
feel the tension. Yeah. And you're like, what is happening? And you only get little snippets of it. And I thought that was brilliant. I loved this after credit scene. Truly one of probably the best since Endgame, like that version of all the Marvel movies has ended. We've started this new phase. I think that is by far the best. What did you think?
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. I have mentioned on other reviews, other podcasts, where I feel like the end credit scenes are a bit of a letdown. They just feel scattered, meaningless. It doesn't really excite you as much. I feel like here, though, this one does. I feel like here, after seeing how good of a villain this movie was, and then we see him reappear again in a different version, plus seeing for maybe some people, the return of Loki, all of a sudden seeing Owen Wilson's somewhere in the MCU. What's happening there? There's just a lot of good moments where it's like, what's like you were saying, like we're in the middle of something from the show, but what is going on? What is happening? I need to know. I need to catch up somehow and get excited about this journey with this villain that we're about to go on. And I just agree with you. I thought that it worked very well
And it was very interesting that it ended with Kang will return, not Ant-Man. Kang will return.
because Ant Man's dead.
Well, he might be retired. He might be just off the books. I know they want this Young Avengers. I do think Avengers, Kang Dynasty, and then what's the other one called? They're back to back.
Secret
What's
Wars?
the other one?
Secret Wars?
Is it Secret Invasion? Or no, that's the show. Secret
No,
Wars.
that's
So
the
yeah, you're
show.
right. Secret Wars.
Mhm.
So that means they either defeat Kang or they're going to need a lot of help from a lot of different universes to beat all the Kangs. You know what I mean? And that's where we'll get like a giant war. I don't know how the Secret Invasion Wars, whatever comic goes, but this made me very excited for Kang Dynasty. It made me very excited that Shang-Chi director is taking charge of it. I do love that there were
Yeah.
so many theories about how this was going to relate to the Shang-Chi post-credit scene because fans have felt like that has not paid off yet. And
I thought
there's
so too.
nothing. And there's
Nothing.
nothing. And I'm okay with that
Still
because
don't
it'll
know.
it'll either pay off or it won't, and the movie will either be good or it won't. You know what I mean? Like if it never pays off and the movie rocks, who cares?
I do.
If they pay it off and the movie doesn't suck, I guess the bummer that it sucks. Just give me good content. That's what matters. I don't care about your after credit scenes if they always pay off. But I very excited and curious. But do you have any final real spoilers? I don't, and I low key kind of got to get going here on filming. So,
No, that's
you
all
got
right.
any final thing?
That's all right. We can wrap up. I've said all I need to say. Hope people enjoyed this movie. If you're watching this but haven't seen it yet, yeah.
Wacko.
Hey,
Have a
I
good
don't
one,
know. Some
everyone.
people are like that. I
Guys,
don't
what
know.
do you think? Comment below. Let us know. Remember to like, subscribe, share. Go check out the Movie Meal Patreon. Go check out the podcast. Go check everything out. Blah, 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 blah. And as always, thanks for watching, Mom.
See you guys.